When it comes to specialty coffee in Poland, there are not many brands running longer than Java Coffee Roasters. We visited their roasting space in Warsaw to talk to the owner Nicholas and head roaster Rafał. We learned about the early boom of specialty coffee in Warsaw, the origin of the name, but also how Java Coffee roasts coffee at the moment and how they deal with the ongoing pandemic. Okay, so we are in front of the Java Coffee Roasters in Warsaw and we are going to visit them and ask them questions and find out what's their story. This video is sponsored by Cropster. They write software that helps people make better coffee.
My name is Nick Fitzwilliams and I am the Prezes Zarządu of Java Coffee, which means that I'm the CEO and I'm also the majority owner. I co-own it with an American called Glenn Gregory. My background is finance and I got a job working for a large American mutual fund. My responsibilities were investing that money in Central Eastern Europe. And I came over to Poland in quite early days, 96, 97. And it was about the time that Coffee Republic, Seattle coffee house that was bought by Starbucks. It was about time that these cafes were opening up in London. And always on my trips back to London, I was thinking, oh wow, I left London, but now look, you've got these wonderful cafes to go to and the coffee tastes great. Before the days of flat white, but the cappuccinos and the lattes, they were bringing the Italian coffee scene to London. And so I wanted that here, and there were very few places that could do it. And there was an American guy who had an idea of opening up a coffee chain. He started, he needed more money, and then I became an investor. And the chain was called Stony Point Java. We were roasting our own coffee on an old lady 5-kilo Probat. Our roasting room was kind of like a place with a barn door with a gap underneath and on the top. In the wintertime, the snow would blow over. When the floods came, the water would come under the door. I mean, it really was a startup. And unfortunately, in October 2003, I remember it well, it had to go into bankruptcy. And I decided to rescue it. And in 2004, Glenn Gregory came over and took over the job of restarting this company. And, what we really enjoyed wasn't so much making the sandwiches. What we really enjoyed was roasting the coffee. When we changed to just coffee roasting, we decided just to keep Java and lose Stony Point. Back then, there were two single origins that everybody sang about. There was the Blue Mountain, Jamaica, and there was an Arabica from Sulawesi. Both of them were very expensive. So being introduced to the world of specialty coffee, and that journey started with Stephen Hurst and Macanta, it set us on a new path. The independent cafe movement started in Poland quite early. In London it started around 2004, 2005. Poland happened quite soon after, so around 2007, 2008 it began to pick up. And even today, there's still more artisan cafes opening up. There's still a lot of bad coffee being drunk. And so good coffee. So it's not so much about Java, but we just feel that good coffee is something, it's an accessibility problem. In any major city you can go to independent cafes and drink good coffee. If you go to the supermarkets, what's on the shelves, I would argue it's not that great, but there's still a lot of bad coffee out there. So we say that good coffee is a human right. Everybody should have access to good coffee.
My name is Rafał Kaniewski. I am a coffee roaster. I am in coffee industry from 2008. Have worked probably in most of the cafes in Warsaw until I have changed to roastery. I joined Java as a trainer for a very short period, but I also had some influence on the roasting on the start. But when Nicholas said sauce, then I knew something about it. I feel it somehow. I changed my job to only downstairs.
Raphael joined us from another roaster in 2016, and he did indeed participate in the first Polish Roasting Championship, which he won in July 2018. Up until then, we really didn't have that kind of talent. And it was, you know, I've never been a talent spotter, but it was just common sense. And so at that point, Raphael led the team and led the roasting. And we've been working together on that basis ever since.
Rafael, can you please tell us here about the roasting machines you are having?
This is our Loring, it's Cropster S35. We are mostly using it for our production roast, which means espresso, etc. And this is Diedrich CR25, and we are using it for more fancy coffees to just control it a bit better.
I'm choosing mostly the coffee without any knowledge which is exactly in the cup. I'm just have the number, which is blindly, of course, as always, and I'm just checking which is the best coffee on the table. And I'm looking for the extinguished profile, I can say, very interesting profiles. I'm looking for the new countries, new developing countries, like we last year had Myanmar in example because it was extraordinary. In that time, I'm looking for experience mostly. I'm trying to give my customers the type of experience they are traveling the world with the coffee. Multitasking is very important. You need to smell, you need to read Cropster, you need to read every data, you need to understand it, you need to implement the changes. In the same time, you need to do many things. So a lot of people who, in example, know how to cup, know the tastes, etc., but cannot roast because they doesn't have such multitask mind, I can say. They cannot just look on the coffee, taste it, smell it, and in the same time change something in the roasting profile. And very important thing for me, as far as I see from people who is roasting, then you need to know something about cooking. If you know something about cooking, it's much easier to get it from the roasting profiles, to taste it, cup it, roast it, and make changes. Cropster is a software which can help you in inventory and also the roast profiling. You can input a lot of data about your green beans. You can also make an inventory management. You can do different projects. You can maintain your profiles. You can compare it. You can roast on it afterwards as a reference curve. You can use it in many different ways, but it's helpful for any roaster, honestly, on the world to understand what exactly is going on in the batch if you can analyze this data in the same time.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, we were having a great 2019. And then around August 2019, it already felt like the economy was slowing down. And then COVID came in on top, and it was just like, you know, bam. It was announced on the 13th of March, and on the 16th of March, our volumes were down 90%. We have always invested in staff, in roasting, in machines, in what we call the category of Coffee Plus, in supporting independent cafes that have to compete with chains, whereby they don't have the A location on the street, they have a B or C location, and in order to compete, because they haven't got such a good location, they have to compete on quality and on freshness. And very often they don't have the same cost that the chains do, so they do more work for less money. So that's been our universe that we've been supporting. So as of 16th of March, our universe basically shut up shop. It was tough, but what we also saw, it was somewhat of a wake up for us, is that the e-commerce exploded. We saw a 400% pickup in April, and it just continued growing. We saw a very big return in the business in volumes, proving how resilient coffee is. It's making me feel a bit more comfortable about this second wave that we're going into. Don't give up, and we'll get through this, because, you know, the alternative is just unthinkable.